I'd like to thank you for inviting me on the show. It's such an honour to be here, and I'd just like to say that when I'm not playing Xbox with my mate Thor, I really like to listen to my favourite podcast, Pop Culture Pastor.
Pop Culture Pastor.
So, you guys, it's kindly Christian families taking in disadvantaged youth, and the feel-good Hollywood story of that took a hit this week. Michael Oher, the subject of the movie The Blind Side. Sandra Bullock won an Oscar for that.
Also a book.
And I read the book, just so you know.
DJ has read the book.
Way before the movie came out.
So I heard about the book when I was still in high school.
Yeah.
I had a teacher that's like, if you want to read a very moving book, he's like, read this.
I read the book because he was on the Tony Kornheiser show. So we're going all the way back to my 810, 610 days back in the day when I lived in Lawrence. Mm-hmm. Morning show, Tony Kornheiser had the author of that book. And that's what made me read the book. I went and bought it.
Okay. Yeah. Very cool. Yeah.
Did you ever think on Pop Culture Pastor there'd be a Tony Kornheiser reference?
No.
I'm glad there is.
I just realized I missed Tony Kornheiser.
PTI, folks.
Kind of missed that. Yeah, anyways, before we get into this, I wanted to kind of intro it. I want to say this is Pop Culture Pastor. My name is Dave. Cody's here.
Yes.
And also documentary geek of the round table, DJ's here, because this is a episode. This is a What's Up Doc episode. And it's going to have a little sports flair to it. Because we are talking about the documentary on Netflix, Untold Johnny Football, which is a kind of, if it had a subtitle, to be the rise and fall of Johnny Manziel. The famous Texas A&M quarterback, lovingly known as Johnny Football. And really, you don't have to be a big sports head to kind of watch it. It's only 70 minutes long.
Yeah.
I was glad it was short because I'm like, if this is multiple episodes, I don't know if I have enough investment in Johnny Manziel. He was big when I was in college. And right after I graduated, he's leading Texas A&M, and I'm invested in the early years, but then it's sad.
Yeah.
So
but we're going to talk about that coming up, but don't go anywhere, even if you're not a sports head, because it's going to be, there's enough deep things to talk about there that it should be interesting, and you should watch the documentary for sure. In fact, you can pause the podcast and go watch it right now and then come back. But first we're going to talk about Michael Oher and by proxy, the movie The Blind Side, starring Sandra Bullock and,
Tim McGraw.
Tim McGraw is in that movie.
Some little boy.
And they are mad at Sandra Bullock. That's what's so funny.
Who's mad at Sandy Bullock?
That's all over Twitter.
Yeah.
It's a big deal on Twitter. They act like, because all the pictures are pictures of her. She's the,
No one has a real picture of who that lady was.
The Tuies, yeah.
Okay, before we even get into this, it's so... Twitter and social media and us.
And
let's just label it as us. We're doing our thing already where we're siding up.
But can I just say it, just so you know, there is a such thing as Black Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
There is.
Yeah.
And so Black Twitter's gone off on Sandra Bullock. And I don't understand. I don't get it. But go ahead. I'm sorry. I just want you to know, Black Twitter's on fire. The white chair in Montgomery, Alabama, and Sandra Bullock right now are trending.
We don't have time to get into the white chair reference.
Don't do it.
If you don't know.
Yeah, you don't want to know.
WWE had a spot with the white chair in the New Day, so watch that.
I saw it. Yeah, that was. Go ahead though. Go. I'm not going to comment on.
So Michael Oher, who is a football player, a retired football player, was a Super Bowl champion, Pro Bowler, blocked the blind side for his quarterback, was the subject of this movie, The Blind Side. So the movie, based on a book that DJ has read, is all about this family that took in Michael when he was a minor.
Yep.
And just kind of helped him, gave him a place to stay, fed him, got him into a different school, and then kind of just helped him along in life. And it was just such a wonderful story. I remember I kind of liked that movie, The Blind Side.
I bet you did.
Sandy Bullock's great. Now, what does that mean? What's that supposed to mean? What do you mean by that? I got some white guilt going on here.
That does seem like a Dave movie.
Maybe it touched my savior complex a little bit, you know? I admit it.
I'm impressed that you caught it. I'm so used to being in these circles in Chanute where I can make comments and nobody knows what I'm talking about. So that I'm impressed. Kudos.
I'm in touch with my brokenness.
Yeah, I'm impressed that you caught that. Most I have to give you that's props to you.
Yeah. Well, we're laughing about it in a way, but this needs to be probably brought up in this story because, first of all, before we even start, everybody sided up already. And I'll caution everyone, there's two different stories here, and we don't know what the truth is yet.
Yeah, it's probably somewhere in the middle. Right?
Probably, yes.
Right, Cody? Go ahead and tell us.
I mean, I'm hoping it's somewhere in the middle.
So here's what Michael...
But there has been grumblings for years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And we'll get to that.
Yes.
This is not coming out of nowhere.
Yes.
Michael Oher, a couple days ago, filed a lawsuit, and he alleges he
is
unknowing...
He broke? He's not broke, is he?
It kind of sounds like it.
Yeah, that's
there's a couple questions I have to get to the bottom of this that I'll get to, but let me get through the basics here.
Bad.
Oher's lawsuit alleges he unknowingly authorized the couple to be his conservators in 2004 when he was 18 years old. Quote, this is a quote from his lawyer. Michael trusted the Tuohys and signed where they told him to sign. What he signed, however, and unknown to Michael until after February 2023, were not adoption papers or the equivalent of adoption papers. He recently learned that the Tuohy family was receiving residual checks from the movie, he claims, and he hired his attorney to look into the situation. This allegedly led the attorney to uncovering the conservatorship papers in February 2023. He goes on to say Mike didn't grow up with a stable family life. When the Tuohy family told Mike they loved him and wanted to adopt him, it filled a void that had been with him his entire life. Discovering that he wasn't actually adopted devastated Mike and wounded him deeply. So that was kind of the story from Michael Oher's end. And
so he's not adopted?
No. Okay, so...
legally?
2 days ago when this came out, I thought, oh no, this sounds bad for the family. Because my big question was, of course, this could all be his version of the truth, and we want to wait to hear the other side. But the big thing for me, if you remember, Cody, because I remember us talking about it, was they're going to have to explain the conservatorship. Mm-hmm. Because to have a conservatorship on an adult young man who's not of compromised mind, that was weird to me. I was like,
you're getting to the Britney Spears stuff.
Yeah, yes. Right. They're going to have to explain that because that didn't make any sense. Well, since the Tuohys have claimed that Michael Oher has attempted a shakedown on the couple for $15 million before he filed the petition.
Yeah, talk to me.
He claimed a petition that the Tuohy family did not legally adopt him.
He's trying to buy a couple Whataburgers.
But the Tuohys are out here telling a different story. Their lawyer says they, quote, opened their home to Mr. Oher, offered him structure, support, and most of all, unconditional love. His response was to threaten them, including saying that he would plant a negative story about them in the press unless they paid him $15 million.
There you go.
The statement also alleges that Mr. Oher actually attempted to run this play several times before, but was stopped after the lawyers representing him saw the evidence and learned the truth. So here's what they're saying. So he said that everyone got money from the royalties of the movie. That was in his claim. Now, the family's claiming they each got like $12,000, which was like the share from the writer of the book. So the writer of the book got royalties.
Oh, yeah.
They all declined royalties from the movie. None of them got royalties, is their claim, and everyone got the author's share split 5 ways because there's 4 of them in the natural family. There's the mom, dad, their 2 natural-born kids, and Michael. So 5 ways. They each got like $12,000.
Yeah.
And they explain the conservatorship. So here's what they say about the conservatorship, Cody and DJ. They said that when Ole Miss was recruiting him, and if you remember from reading the book, these were Ole Miss people.
Yes.
So there were issues that Ole Miss said they were going to have with the NCAA because they had boarded him and fed him.
Absolutely.
And he wasn't a member of the family.
Absolutely.
And if Ole Miss recruited him, they saw problems. So
Absolutely.
they told him that they needed to adopt him. The problem is by the time they told him that, he was an adult. And in that state at that time, they were told they could not legally adopt him. They were told that the only way to do that was through a conservatorship, which would technically make him a member legally of their family. That's the reasoning they put. Now, if Ole Miss if anyone is willing to go on record and back that up and be like a witness for them to say that, yeah, that's the discussions that were made, then that kind of explains the conservatorship.
Or just what the laws are for that state at that time.
Yeah. Now,
That would be easy.
yeah, from what I understand now, you can adopt in Mississippi at any age.
Well, with the NIL, you'd have to be able to get over yourself now.
Right. So the NCAA rules have all changed, and we're going to discuss. This is going to come up later when we talk about Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's what they're saying, and now it's, well, who do you want to believe? Because, and trust me, everyone out there in social media land, they have someone they want to believe. That's for sure.
You know, Black Twitter don't believe white people. So I'm gonna tell you right now. I just saw somebody post that Sandra Bullock played a low-key human trafficker.
Yeah, I saw those takes. Yep. Those takes were hot and heavy a couple days ago when Orr's side came out. And then there was like kind of radio silence until today. And then the Toohey families released that statement. So the Toohey family does have money, but it was from the sale of, apparently, Mr. Toohey owned many McDonald's franchises. He built up a collection of McDonald's franchises over the years.
As one does.
And sold them some years ago for like $250 million or something crazy.
You know who we need, don't you?
Who do we need?
Oprah.
Oh.
Set them down, Oprah. Get this figured out.
I am told Oprah's too busy orchestrating the Maui fire.
Oh.
Let's not open that can of worms.
Yeah.
What do you mean? What is she doing?
Oh, man.
She's saving lives?
Not only has Twitter got thoughts about the Orr situation,
They got thoughts on Oprah.
they got thoughts on conspiracies in Maui.
And that,
I thought that was Facebook territory, by the way.
yeah, and they also have identified that, other properties she's owned around the nation have had fires around them, but her property spared of all damage.
Yeah.
And she has property on Maui, and it's spared of all damage.
Okay.
Yeah, they got Oprah figured out. I
Maybe God just loves Oprah.
So, if nothing else, this shows the old the curse of the biopic in a kind of a way where you fall in love with a movie like The Blind Side, and then of course it's never as simple as it appears.
See,
Real life is always
I didn't
more
like the
complicated.
movies.
You didn't like the movie.
No.
I did not care for the movie, and I was gifted the movie while I was doing like a vacation Bible school internship out in Western Kansas. This old couple's like, here's 2 jars of jam and a movie that we think you'll love.
Yeah.
I did not love it.
Well, I liked it apparently because it touched my white savior complex. Well, DJ, tell me your thoughts about the movie. You read the book. Did you enjoy reading the book, or I'm interested to know where it hits you. Because clearly, like, listen, if we're being fair, there probably is a touch of savior complex going on here with the Tooheys, right?
I'm going to say more than a touch.
Mm-hmm.
He's thinking.
Yeah, because
he's measuring the words.
Well, you have to be careful to try to pretend to know somebody's motive.
Yeah,
is not healthy. You got to be real careful pretending like you know somebody's motives. But there is this greater conversation.
It clearly hits you in a certain way.
Yeah, there's this greater conversation of this narrative of where I'm trying to say this right. How many different ways can we tell this story of a black kid he's an animal. He don't even know how to use a fork. He can't tie his shoes. Look at this animal. And then here come the white people that show him how to use a fork. Mm-hmm. And so that narrative, I'm past both. I didn't see 12 Years a Slave either. I don't see how either one of those narratives get us to the place that we claim we want to get to. Those movies, to me, both of them, contribute to the further irreconcilable issues that we have between the races in this country.
Yeah.
That's just how I feel. So
Orr himself, if we're being full disclosure here, Orr himself has had a problem with the movie, and that's been pretty clear since it came out.
absolutely.
Slash his teammates all call him Blindside.
Yeah. Well,
and
and I
make
get
fun
it.
of him for like how
yeah,
he's
and
portrayed in the movie.
His
that-
big problem is the way he's portrayed in the movie.
Well, you should
he
read
has
the
been
book. It's
specific
worse
about
in the book. I mean, he doesn't even know how to sleep in a bed in the book.
Yeah. And so
He hides his food. He would hoard his food, according to the book, underneath his bed.
Yeah.
He didn't even know that how to use the refrigerator. And the dad has to come upstairs and go, hey, Michael, you don't have to do that now.
There's a famous scene in the movie where the young boy in the family uses like jars to teach him how to play football. Yet they don't get him in the real world. The story is they don't even meet him until he's like 17.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
And he was already a multi-sport. He was already a multi-sport athlete.
They're basically taking responsibility for everything that even he was good at.
Yeah.
He couldn't talk. He couldn't read. He underperformed in school. And it was so that part that's on steroids, the family made a contribution to him. Mm-hmm. Okay. And we put that contribution on steroids. You could take a kid from country bubblegum Alabama and move him to Mississippi and do the same thing with that kid and make fun of rednecks in the same way. Mm-hmm. I just feel like I think they're trying to accomplish racial reconciliation with false narratives, and I just don't think that works. And I feel the same way about 12 Years a Slave. I feel like these movies perpetuate further stereotypes that divide us more. What do we do with the issue of adoption, where we start going in between cultures, and the danger of demonizing other cultures and really going, we don't do things like that here, and I'm not going to demonize how you do it. We don't do it like that here, and so let me integrate you into how we do things here, how you do things. And let's spend a day doing things the way you do it. It's just really weird to me where somebody demonizes somebody else. Everybody does it. Mm-hmm. I think that's weird. Like, I didn't move to Southeast Kansas expecting this culture to embrace how I do things. And so I don't have that expectation of people who didn't grow up with black people to have any understanding of what it means to be black in America. Mm-hmm. However, I expect people who claim the love of Christ not to demonize me based on cultural things.
Yeah.
And so just because I do things different than you, don't make you more saved than me. And I've dealt with that racism in Chanute, where people think they're more saved than me because they do things differently and they appropriate salvation and sanctification this way. Mm-hmm. And you're just being white American, white evangelical. You're not being a mature believer. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. And
so
we actually do that in a bunch of different areas,
absolutely,
not just racial.
Absolutely, yes. And so I don't think these movies are accomplishing what they really were hoping to accomplish.
Yeah.
If I was to look at my own personal story, there have been numerous white families that have done above, beyond. God has used them in some of the most profound ways so that I can be who I am today. I graduated from Humboldt High School. The Bauer family literally brought me into their home and treated me like their son. I had my own room. Yeah. They took me school clothes shopping. They threw me my first real birthday party that I can remember. Mm-hmm. I went on my first family vacation with them. Still to this day, like we had a family reunion about 3 weeks ago. Me and my wife went. That family, predominantly white, I'm pretty much the only African-American that they know intimately, and they literally treat me to this day like I'm their kid. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I believe that happens every day in this country. And just my story alone, they didn't teach me how to dribble. I could do that. They didn't teach me how to jump up and sit on a rim. I could do that. They don't take credit for my entire plight.
Right.
They're not asking to be heroes. And I think there are stories that need to be told that tell a better, accurate picture. I don't know if they ever sell movies, But there are stories all around. I just saw one of an African-American coach that took in a whole family of white kids, and he's their coach, and they lost both their parents. He took in all the white kids. There are stories of people doing it that Hollywood hasn't touched.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
And well, part of it, I mean, it's a biblical truth, is like you've earned your reward when you like broadcast your story to get it highlighted and
Absolutely.
become a hero.
Yeah.
Which in this case, I mean, this family literally went to an author and it's like, hey, tell our story about how we saved Michael Orr from everything under the sun. I'm waiting for them to bring up his mental health.
Okay.
That's
We'll see. We'll
that's
see if
going
that
to be
happens.
a tricky subject, but it's coming.
But in your neck of the world, that's a whole conversation. When you start adopting outside of your culture, and we've seen that happen numerous times in our town, it's a very difficult thing because you're now meddling with somebody's identity.
Yep.
And when you start meddling with people's identity, here comes the mental health issues. Obviously, there is a victimization that's happened to this young man and a crushing of the identity that we don't fully know. If his teammates are calling him blindside.
Oh, yeah.
And so you know how the enemy will take and mock. So when you don't do things the way God tells you to do them, your curse will mock your blood. You know, Isaac, they had to put Hagar out because Ishmael started giving Isaac some trouble, right? And I just think there's a tendency for, if you're not careful when you're an adopted kid, the enemy will mock your blessing and turn that on you. There's some type of thing with adoption, even if you're in the same culture, let alone not in the culture, that kid in America has a hard time acclimating themselves in their identity with the people that they live with. Even in a situation that has no press, the person isn't going to go to the NFL. So all of that is in this story. Now, you can make it just a black thing if you want, but there's definitely a lot more ingredients in this a black kid.
So my last question to wrap this up is, and let me intro it a little bit, is Hollywood has things called tropes. The things that are in stories, and it's not just Hollywood, in books too. In stories, we have tropes. And the whole idea of the trope is it's not a sinister thing. You're just making the curve more dramatic because you want the ups and downs to be uppier and downier, right? And so we can say that the writer of the book did not have wickedness in mind, but do the makers of the story bear responsibility when they make the white Christian family very perfect and savory, and they make Michael Orr the dim-witted black gentle giant who doesn't know how to tie his shoes? Does the maker of the story bear responsibility in the outcome of the relationship?
If that's me, I would be embarrassed. I don't know. So I'm a stepfather, adopted both of my kids. If I saw a movie of our life and there were things in there that were that would bother me, for me to pretend like I had to do something that I didn't do. I don't know why that's okay.
If the family had come out after this movie's made, because you can't control what the studio's going to do once they own the property. They're going to make whatever they make. If they had came
You
out,
can, but you got to do all that up front.
Oh, yeah. And if they had said, some of this was overly dramatized. Michael actually was an athlete before he came to our family. He knew this, he knew that. Like, this was more for dramatic effect.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother story we have.
Now, in the book, she's a pistol. There are stories about the mom that the author tells with, so for instance, she's an interior decorator in the book, and she has a lot of connections, a lot of athletes. And I can't remember who was the Washington Redskins quarterback at the time, but she goes to him because she's interior decorating his house, and she says to him, this kid needs clothes, right? And he's like, well, what are his sizes? She gives him like size 17 shoe. And he was like, does he play? He was just like, wow, this is a big dude. And so he went to some of the linemen on the Washington Redskins and they got him some clothes when they first took him in. That alone is enough of a story part. There are parts of the book that are left out where you're not necessarily making it about his ineptitude, however you say that. I'm making up words now. That's my Dr. King spirit in me. that you just go, okay, that is what we're going to do. But so there were several stories in the book that I felt like had enough of that where you didn't have to make it like you didn't have to play the stereotype. Like they're just like, you can't teach black kids how to read, write, and do arithmetic.
Like it's miraculous that, he is part of a family that has these connections.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
I know no one that is a professional athlete. I cannot give you a connection to the Washington Redskins offensive line.
Before we move on, I will say this, that both Michael Orr and the Toohey family have written successive books after The Blind Side mania. Multiple books, both parties. And while Michael has remained pretty consistent about his displeasure with the movie, I will say, you brought up, did the Toohey family ever express anything contrary? And they did in some of their whichever their more recent books were. They did have a whole chapter where they said Michael was going to make it regardless, that they did not, that nothing they did helped him get to where he was. He was going to make it. So they do, and they also point out that he was much smarter than they depicted him in the movie. Now, did they do that because they knew Michael was unhappy with it? Who knows?
Because he's retired now.
Yeah.
But literally, I can remember watching NBC Sunday Night Football and them doing a story about how all his teammates call him the blind side.
Yeah.
He hates it. And the announcers and the sideline reporter are laughing that he gets so animated when his teammates do that. And that goes into mental health stuff. Yeah. And
so there's this awesome conversation that's not happening to me that needs to start happening. And it's typically done through therapy. You draw your conclusions from counseling, therapy, and for us, it's the Holy Spirit. But to me, if you have an agent, it's like, let's get you to a therapist. Let's literally walk through this.
Yes, let's
because
process it.
You live in a time, if you're famous, the attack is coming. So if you're not healthy, Black Twitter's going to eat you up. White Twitter's going to eat you up. So to me, it's coming out of this going, how do I explain who I really am from this and what this really did? And how do you have a really honest conversation with your adopted parents? And how do you arrive at the arbitrary number $15 million? It's like,
that's interesting.
Yeah, that's just, where does this all boil down from? What are you thinking?
Yeah. Truth's probably in the middle. That is, we said that at the beginning. That's usually what bears out to be true. And
I think the answer that you gave me just now makes a ton of sense.
What answer was that?
Because I know for a fact I've had several kids that I've tried to help that are in college that play sports. I couldn't help them because the NCAA said you can't help them.
Yeah.
So we've had kids from Chanute that I mentor, and I was taking them to lunch and bought them some clothes, and the coach put me aside and said, hey, we got to talk about this. Yep. We're not talking like NCAA Division I. Yeah. So that part of it actually to me smells right.
Tell us what you think when we post this. This is going to be kind of a joint episode. This is we're talking about the Blind Side lawsuit here beginning, but right now we're going to move into our review of the documentary Untold, Johnny Football. Stick around. All right, welcome back. We are here on a What's Up Doc episode of Pop Culture Pastor. We've got our documentary geek of the round table, DJ Dangerfield's here, who, by the way, it's always wonderful to have you. You bring a deep insight into things that we usually don't have on the show.
Oh, wow. I don't feel that way. When I listen,
You're almost like the Play-Doh of the pop culture pastor world.
Yes.
We are in trouble.
If it wasn't for you, we'd be talking about farts and, whatever else with Star Wars and things like that. But we watched Untold. Untold is a series on Netflix, a series of documentaries.
Great series. So far.
I enjoy every episode that they've released.
So Dave, I know you got an outline, but I have to know, which one is the best one so far?
Malice in the Palace. I love that.
See, I like the hockey one. They're close.
The hockey one is...
They're right neck and neck to me. The Mouse, you're right. The Malice in the Palace is phenomenal.
Malice in the Palace is
one.
the one that I knew going into I remember this. This is a big event. And then this hockey one's just
the hockey
out
one
of left field.
Is so dope.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen that.
You've got to.
Like WWE meets hockey.
You've got to see.
Hockey.
But they gave the franchise to a senior in high. Could you imagine? You have the Wichita Escape football team, and you're the general manager, president.
Oh, that would have been. And when I was 19,
yes.
Oh, that would have been bad.
Oh, yes, and it is.
It would have been like basketball.
But it ends. Yeah.
Much.
So I won't tell it, but you definitely. I'm begging you to watch this because I want to hear your take on it because it also has the mafia. The mafia's in this thing. So just check it out.
You're hitting all my
just
awesome buttons.
Yes, but this series has been phenomenal. Okay.
Yeah. So we all like Untold, and they just came out with this new one. It's called Johnny Football, and it is basically, if I could give it a subtitle, it's the rise and fall of Johnny Manziel. Here is the synopsis from Netflix. I'll read it before we get into this here. In 2012, the brightest star in all of sports was an undersized freshman quarterback at unheralded Texas A&M, whose fervor on the field was rivaled only by his hard partying ways off it. Dubbed Johnny Football, the magnetic football player captured the nation's attention and initially relished his alter ego. I wanted to be Johnny Football. Johnny Football never had a bad time, he says. But as the money rolled in, the scrutiny heightened, and Manziel rejected his newfound fame and suddenly lost his way. With astonishing candor, Manziel, along with his family, coaches, his former best friend, and his agent, details what happened behind the scenes as scandals piled up in the glare of paparazzi flashbulbs. He fumbled his shot at NFL success after the Cleveland Browns picked him in the first round of the NFL draft in 2014, but Manziel went on to search for something even greater: inner peace and happiness with a quieter life that he reveals here. Now, before we even get into it, I'm going to call
shenanigans.
I'm going to call shenanigans on that
line.
last little blurb there for
again,
Netflix. He went on to search for something even greater: inner peace and happiness with a quieter life. What we see of his life now is him partying with his friends at his pool.
Well,
you didn't like the bongs they had out.
So the headline that came out 2 weeks ago when this doc dropped was, oh, by the way, he's opening a huge bar in a Dallas suburb.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, are we really looking for inner peace?
But that's his true self to him.
It is.
I mean, if there's anything that we know he does, is that.
So
that actually makes sense to me.
It makes sense.
It's when he's having press conferences going, I know that as a teammate, my team, my linemen.
So he reminded me of Flair, Ric Flair.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have the ability to sustain the high level of performance.
Yeah, on the football field, yeah.
No, you know who this guy becomes? Johnny Manziel ends up being the bad guy from Roadhouse. The guy that owns all the whole town.
He drives the monster truck through the car dealership.
He drives his car all over the road while singing old tunes, not caring about everyone else.
So he talks about...
I was not expecting that analogy.
Yeah. So I'll get to it later. But his mental health journey and his life choices, even after his mental health journey or his continuing of his mental health journey, they don't line up. And I have issues.
We'll get to the mental health part of that.
You gonna be all right, Cody?
Yeah.
You gonna be all right, Kay?
So the documentary starts. We see him in high school. He's clearly a gifted athlete. He's scoring 7 touchdowns in the first half of a high school football game, which is just kind of bonkers. And he's never really if you've been around high school football, saying someone's a quarterback you understand, doesn't necessarily mean he's throwing the ball.
No.
And it looked like that was pretty much the case. He's just running. He's running for all these touchdowns. He's a running quarterback, which probably is why he didn't get as much attention coming out of high school that he wanted to. Because he said several times that his dream was to go to Texas, the University of Texas.
This train was derailed so fast.
It's probably the best thing that he didn't go to Austin. But he idolized Vince Young, who was an athletic quarterback himself.
First NFL jersey I own is a Vince Young jersey.
There you go. And so my first question is, how good was Johnny Manziel?
He's a baller.
Yeah. I mean,
he's a baller, bona fide baller.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
He beat Alabama. I mean, come on, y'all. He's bona fide.
So
they built that stadium on his back.
They did. And he, for the most part, that freshman year, phenomenal. Most part. They don't win it all. Mm-hmm. And they also lose their first game against a team that looks like a JV team compared to Alabama. But he has tremendous success.
To be fair, he was a true freshman.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a baller, bro.
I'm not discounting it.
Yeah,
I'm just saying that
you just don't like him.
It wasn't perfect.
But he's a baller, bro.
Yeah.
Straight up, flat out.
What really gets me is later on in the doc when the Browns coaches are talking about him, or when they're talking about his pro career, and they flash back to Kingsbury, who was the college coach.
Yeah, man.
And they said something about his iPad registered zero. No, that was the agent.
Yeah,
so he is talking about the pros.
Yeah.
That is, they can measure how long they're watching the game field.
Yeah.
And they said it measured zero. And they flip back to Manziel, and he's holding up his hands in the shape of an O. He's like, none, zero. Dude watched no. This dude puts absolutely no real work into being a good football player. And yet was drafted.
So there's two names I have that were drafted just as high and were just as bright of stars. Jamarcus Russell.
Okay.
Brett, what's my middle name, Favre? And Brett Favre somehow makes it. Mm-hmm. Hall of Fame.
Yeah, he's a Hall of Famer. You don't think Brett Favre studied film, though?
Oh, no. He literally said, I didn't know what a double the nickel was until my fifth season in the league.
Just so you know, Johnny Manziel, his freshman year, threw almost 1,200 yards more than the starting quarterback for the Texas Longhorns. Just so you know, that's
so it wasn't all running.
Threw 7 or 8 more touchdowns too.
Yeah. Now
so I'm just telling you.
And so the thing that gets me with the documentary is it doesn't talk about who's around Johnny Manziel to help him get those touchdown passes and help lead that team, because Super Bowl winning Mike Evans and Von Miller's on that defense.
You can do that with every single quarterback that we talk about. You can do that every single time.
I know.
They call it Johnny Football for a reason.
I'm just saying you don't stop Bama if you don't have a Von Miller.
You say that about the whole Bama football team. You say that with anybody, but for whatever reason, he is Johnny. It is football. The quarterback, the winning quarterback is the man, period. There's nothing to argue about. You can say the same thing about Patrick Mahomes.
Who was Pat Mahomes' best
you can say that about Patrick
teammate? Because
and his team reflected that. They would have 5 and 6 losses a year. His team reflected that.
Let's be real honest here. The difference between Johnny Manziel and Patrick Mahomes might just be doing the homework.
Absolutely. That's the point of the documentary.
Yeah.
This dude's a baller. He's not trying.
Yeah.
He clearly got into a fight at a bar his first day in college. This dude's a baller. Your definition of a baller, mine are you were sitting there I don't know. Dude, you don't just show up to a Division I first season in the SEC and go, you know what? I'm just going to kind of hang out, smoke weed, beat up people, drink every single night. And I think I'm going to try to help my team win.
The thing is I've seen it since. I've seen it. His name's Baker Mayfield.
I was going to say
Same dude.
I was going to say Baker Mayfield's the prototype of that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if Baker Mayfield didn't watch film and go to practice and all that.
I don't know Baker took up all the extracurriculars and the fighting.
Well, everybody does the extracurriculars. Let me go ahead and say that. Let me disappoint you with that. I'm talking about, but there are some people who put in the work.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There are some people. Kobe was in a hotel room when he wasn't supposed to be with somebody. But he still had a phenomenal Jordan, Tiger Woods. The Tiger Woods documentary is essentially the same thing as the Johnny Manziel documentary. The only difference is Tiger puts in the work. What we're saying that make Johnny Manziel, why we're saying he is a beast, is because we're going, he's not trying. I drew from the comment, this guy had it and didn't want it. I think he liked the fraternity, the what do you call it? What do you call the little clubs? The frat club. He wanted to be a frat boy. This helped him. He's nobody. He's a nerd. He's somebody we're going to pick on every day. If it wasn't for football, he's a scrawny punk picked on every day. What made him a frat boy, which is what he wanted.
Yeah.
What made him the life of the party was...
He says that in the doc.
Yeah.
That he wanted to be a
was
frat
the point to me. It's like, football was just a means to get to this other place.
But go back to high school, Johnny. Johnny's at like a military academy, essentially.
Yeah.
In high school.
Yeah.
And he has work ethic.
Yeah.
He talks about it.
Yeah.
He talks about... He puts in some work ethic still at Texas A&M, but by year 2, that's all gone.
Well, he said that he would look around when they was in high school and everybody was doing it.
So
Yes.
when you go Division I,
Not
everybody's doing it.
yeah. So the catalyst is the Alabama game. When the hype gets crazy, he wins the Heisman and things go off the rails. We'll talk about that in a little bit. There's a quote from Cliff Kingsbury, who is his quarterback coach, who would go on to be a pro coach. He also coached Patrick Mahomes at Texas
in college.
Tech. So that's interesting note there.
Kingsbury, no. If Kingsbury says you're good,
Yeah.
guess
You're
what
good.
you are.
Kingsbury.
Guess what you are. But what's the guy's name from ESPN? He called it. The dude from ESPN, before he got drafted, he said, don't draft this kid. And he gave them 10 reasons, had nothing to do with the stuff that you're saying.
Yeah.
It had all to do with where he releases the ball. Merrill Hodge.
Yeah, I
He
saw
talks
that
about
clip.
his footwork. He talks about where he releases the ball. He talks about his vision. They're all fact-based quarterback skill sets that you have to be in a. That's what I'm most interested in. Coming up here, just because he don't reflect what you think a person should reflect, Brett Favre didn't reflect any of those things either. Yeah. He just was doggone good. So you got to get over yourself. You got to get over yourself in that regard.
We have the shining light. His name was Thomas Brady. You know what wins and you know what doesn't with Tom Brady. And if you don't reflect not only the physical attributes that Merrill Hodge brought up, but if you don't reflect the mental or like even the size, like Drew Brees and Russell Wilson, they're good for one Super Bowl. They're good for one. I don't think you're going to win multiple with them.
I don't think what you say, everybody's good for one. You are a fan talking. I don't respect what you're saying. I'm just going to tell you that up front. Until you've got into it, a fan just, you know how hard it is to win a state title in high school, let alone to pretend like because I'm good, I'm just going to come out and win a Super Bowl trophy. I mean, that is bananas that fans make those statements to me. That's something that we can't wrap our. It's like an artist who makes it to the top in music. We can't wrap our mind around why Taylor Swift makes it, and there are 20 women, I could take you to local churches that do circles around her singing that would never make it. We can't, I watched an interview with Sting. You can't wrap your mind around why the Police became the Police and other bands didn't. If it was so easy just to say, get a Tom Brady, 6'4", and be mentally tough and do the reps, everybody would do it. It's not that simple.
You have to fall in the right spot.
That's just not. That's why we like sports.
But like
the reason why we love sports is because it's not that simple. You don't know what's going. As soon as they put the wild card in, the Giants lost their first 4 football games, winning as the wild card and beat the undefeated Patriots with a little Eli Manning, somebody that you wouldn't expect to win the Super Bowl. That's what we love about sports, and fans forget that so quick. That what we love about sports is, if it was just as simple as going, hey, that's why we look at Tom Brady so high, because that's not easy. It's nowhere near easy to do that.
It's not, but he's a prototype. Muggsy Bogues isn't going to win you a championship. Muggsy Bogues is out of the league.
But Barea does.
Barea's taller than 5'3".
But go back and watch the footage.
All right, okay, hold on.
So
let's break
there's
this
a
up.
prototype that wins in the NFL, and Manziel didn't fit it.
Let's move on. We've said our piece here. We're getting deep into the sports now, and now I'm afraid our normal listeners are like, I don't know what we're talking about, Beret and Muggsy Bogues. I just know there was some shocking Muggsy Bogues and Taylor Swift slander in there, and I don't know if I'm down with that.
Like, do you understand why everybody's freaked about
kidding.
Taylor Swift? Nobody knows why.
I'm kidding. I understand what both of you are saying. I think it all started because the crazy thing about Manziel is Cliff Kingsbury says it in the doc. He says, this dude rolled out to the biggest game of the year, hungover. He's sweating like crazy. And he went out there. And remember, he tells me, he says, you better be good.
Makes no sense.
He says, you better be good. And he does. He goes out there and wins in the game. But so he's
disrespecting the game at that point.
We could clearly answer the first question and say, Johnny Manziel, how good was he? Well, he was real good. He's real good. The next question is when things, as the documentary progresses, you see his popularity growing, then the Bama game hits, and that's when he takes everything is just, it's Johnny football mania. Are 19-year-olds ready to handle celebrity?
I don't think man was made for fame, period.
Yeah, I was going to say adults
Tom Brady,
struggle with
we're
it.
back to Tom Brady. Tom Brady proves it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that's the conclusion I'm drawing after watching the Tiger Woods documentary. HBO has the Tiger Woods documentary. It's 2 episodes. That's the whole point of all these they're all the same. They start off as elite kids. They go off to college elite. Mm-hmm. They become famous. I mean, as soon as fame pops, it's over for, like, you can just tell, like, that Alabama game is his downfall.
Yeah.
Like,
so why are we so forgiving to Tom Brady and not Johnny Manziel? Because I think if we're being fair, we can say people don't have a good opinion of Johnny Manziel
because he doesn't fit the American culture's way of being successful. Mm-hmm. He comes across as very arrogant. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of. But
Tom Brady's super arrogant.
I agree.
To have rings to back that arrogance up.
Baker Mayfield literally went on Ohio State's field and won, and then planted the flag.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
So. People aren't going to like that. That's not, Americans don't like that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. Tom Brady's arrogant, but he would never do that.
No.
He would never do that. Tom Brady would never. Joe Montana would never do. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like the arrogance that we're talking about with Tom Brady is more confidence. It's a type of confidence that Kobe and Tiger. So there's an interview with Tiger Woods and Curtis Strange. Same thing we're talking about. He's a teenager. He's getting interviewed by Curtis Strange, and Curtis Strange is clearly put off. Because he goes, what's your goal? To be the greatest ever. He started laughing. And Tiger would not, he's like 15. Curtis Strange gets an attitude, cuts the interview off. Because Curtis Strange cannot take this black kid, 2, this 15-year-old kid telling me he's going to be the greatest one ever. So there's a type of confidence that these dudes have. You can call Baker Mayfield arrogant because he doesn't have rings to back it up. But if he doesn't start off with that type of confidence, he's never going to get to the rings. What we know that every great player has in common is they have an unbelievable amount of confidence.
Yeah.
Astronomical. That's the starting point. Most of sports, when you're in the 8th grade, boils down to, are you confident? The most confident kid typically is the most successful kid in sports. Yeah. In the early ages. So it starts with this ridiculous amount of confidence.
So Johnny Manziel, as his fame is growing, we're introduced to him. We're actually introduced to him far before that, but it becomes more clear that he's got this best friend, this partner in crime, the guy they were in high school with, and they have the boy dream, like we're gonna do all this together. We're gonna be famous. We're gonna be rich, and it's playing out that way. And this kid, who's his best friend, who's 19 years old, becomes sort of like his manager in all this. He goes in this.
Scary.
And one of the craziest thing about this documentary that I didn't know before all this was there's a portion. So when they're starting to make money and they're trying to throw the cent off of them, the NCAA, they're trying to throw the
autograph stuff.
Yeah, he's trying to throw the cent off. He says, I started making up stories. Now, this was crazy because one of the things I remember from this time was reading a Rolling Stone article about Johnny Manziel's family.
That threw me off.
That they were like an oil mafia family.
Yeah.
And I believed this the whole time.
Yeah.
And then he
Colin
looks right in the
Cowherd brought it
camera.
up.
He looks right in the camera, this 19-year-old kid did, his friend, and says, that was all made up.
So
Uncle Nate.
So this is fake news before we know what fake news is.
Yeah. And the best part was watching Twitter react to this and people saying, like, where was journalism back then? Like, I got news for y'all. Journalism's been missing for quite a while now.
That's tough.
I couldn't believe
that's
it.
That's tough.
/ like if you were someone that was like an investigative journalist, I think that you would be able to like clearly point out that like, okay, what oil family are you from?
Yeah,
Like,
that's weird
There's
to me.
only a select amount of oil
I
families.
always knew he was from money.
I am certain.
They said it over and over again.
Yeah,
He's from money.
I am certain Rolling Stone has taken this article down. But Cody, when I tell you, it was a long form article. Like this was like a 15 to 20 minute read. So the amount of information that this kid fed to them, and that they just wrote it. And of course, it's Rolling Stone. Because of course, it's Rolling Stone.
Don't you? I thought there was a time when they like had real journalists at Rolling Stone.
There
like,
was.
It turns out everybody's the National Enquirer. Like the National Enquirer is more journalism than
They switch back to the dad when the kid is telling the story about how he made up stories about the family, and the dad has this look on his face like,
guys. I'm just telling you. It turns out the National Enquirer is more journalistic than they're the ones who broke the story on Tiger Woods. They're the ones who broke the story on Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. Yeah. Like, they are more journalists than all of these huge publications.
So that was a big part of the documentary for me, was that there were all sorts of stories out there about Johnny's family that turn out to be straight up fabrications of his 19-year-old best friend / agent.
I wonder what he does for a living now, the friend, because he's been kicked out.
Oh, that was the saddest part of the doc.
Yeah, that was the sad part.
/ I don't know why, like, neither one of them have reached out to each other.
Oh, no,
since.
it was clear. It was clear what happened. So when he's going pro, the agent gets involved, and they tell him, hey, you got to distance yourself from this kid. And so he leaves them. He does whatever he's told because Johnny wants to get drafted in the first round.
He's a good friend. He's a good friend.
Literally, we've had 10 years since.
I know.
Yeah.
It is impressive.
But I don't think Manziel's going to let him back. Do you think he comes across as a person that cares about people?
No. But the kid's clearly hurt. His best friend was clearly hurt.
He was there because that was his boy.
Yeah, they were ride or die.
That's the whole point. Like, why would you not just go third round? If I have to, like, he clearly shows you he has zero values. Mm. I mean, he doesn't have. He don't have values.
To be fair, if Johnny is exhibiting sociopathic behavior, he does say that he's bipolar.
Yes, in which.
Do you agree with that, Cody? Do you think that's true?
I cannot say.
I'm just saying,
because of my potential licensing, but I would say that it fits. If he says he is, I can see some signs and read. Can you pull back up what Netflix had said?
Yeah.
So there's a line that is in that Johnny says.
He found inner peace? No,
not that one. It's before that. That it became clear and obvious that these tendencies are definitely in place. I would not necessarily diagnose him because I don't know him and that's beyond my scope. But
I love it. That for these views and opinions do not represent the views. And
yes.
As the money rolled in, the scrutiny heightened, and Manziel rejected his newfound fame and suddenly lost his way. With astonishing candor, Manziel, along with his family, coaches, his former best friend, his agent, details what happened behind the scenes as scandals piled up in the glare of paparazzi flashbulbs. He fumbled a shot at NFL success. He's went on to search for inner peace and happiness with a quieter life.
Yeah, there you go. So he's the largest bar in
So
Dallas.
it was, well, you said it when you were reading it the first time, but it was about, I really love Johnny football. I love being Johnny football.
He loved he felt like there were two. He does say in the documentary there were two versions
So
of him.
kind of like Deion Sanders says, there's Prime and then there's Deion.
Yeah. So if you are doing like some dissociation, some split persona stuff, there's some serious mental health signs.
So Hollywood can happen. That can happen in Hollywood then.
Yeah,
because if I'm like the answer, and then I'm Paul Pierce or whatever his nickname. I mean, like,
he was the truth.
The truth.
Yeah.
And then I'm Paul, and you know, I'm the big ticket, and then you're somebody else. You could play into that,
and
that's Ric Flair's problem.
Yes.
Oh, Ric Flair definitely split.
And
but honestly,
yeah, absolutely,
dude believes he's Ric Flair.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so, like, when you have these warning signs. And, this is the part of the doc I messaged Dave. I was furious with Cliff Kingsbury.
Let me sit up. Hold on. I'm going to sit up. Let me hear it.
Let me just, you want me to lead you into this?
Yes.
Yeah,
what is the responsibility of the people around us? One especially bad quote comes from Kingsbury, a coach who, like, has to admit, who personally benefited greatly from Manziel's performance. Quote, I always felt you had to be careful in telling Johnny how to live his life. He explains about the then 20-year-old player. It wasn't ideal for us as coaches, but it's kind of like that's the dark side. He needed to play good. And as long as he wasn't getting in trouble, do your deal.
Because the system is set up for my job is to keep my job. Now, that's not the right answer. But I'm just telling you, it's like how we used to do corporations. Their only job used to be, the only value of a corporation was to make a profit.
Yeah.
They're now changing that. We now got some conscientious capitalism going on where they're going, there's more to a company than just earning a profit. But the only thing a corporation had responsibility-wise to its stakeholders was a profit. And as an athlete, all of our coaches I've ever been around as a D1 athlete, all of our coaches, their only responsibility was winning. That's it. Because if you don't win, the fans are going, why aren't we winning? We should be winning because everybody thinks you either win or you choke. It's not real. It's this thing that we've created with sports that breeds the idea that we're going to base who's a great player based on how many rings they have.
Yep.
Creates this system that
Let me
we're
ask
mad
you a
about.
question. Are a greater percentage of what we would label as the great coaches in any of these sports, college sports, is there a greater percentage, though, of those coaches who are trustworthy, who walk into parents' home to recruit and say, I'm going to take care of your kid, that actually do?
I would register to say the best coaches are the ones who are the most relational. They have some type of way. I think Phil Jackson was way more relational than X and O's, okay? Mm-hmm. And I think, but what sells, what makes
you got to win.
Is you have to win. And so at the end of the day, if you have the pressure of being at A&M and having to win, and this dude got in a brawl, and our backup quarterback, and he's drunk and hungover, and our backup quarterback can't play as good as the guy who's hungover and drunk, and we have to win, I'm going with the guy. My job's on that. I'm not saying this is the right way of looking at it. I'm just saying the fans create this system. Yeah. Fans created this culture.
Yeah.
This is what fans demand.
That's fair.
And so you can't have it both ways.
I want to give Cody a chance to say what his thoughts are on Cliff Kingsbury specifically.
So as he's saying like all these things, I'm like, oh my goodness, dude.
Did you not appreciate his honesty?
Hey, let's be real clear. Let's be real clear. He shows up and does the interview. Yeah.
I was amazed.
Kevin Sumlin's nowhere to be seen in this documentary.
The brother's like, no, thank you.
And it looks bad. It looks bad.
That brother's like, no, I'm good.
That dude got millions of dollars extension because of Johnny Manziel.
That's what I'm saying.
Got a Stanford job.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, absolutely.
So Kingsbury is there.
Kingsbury's there. But like, so you have rules, you have these things laid out within like the conduct of the team.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have that. I'm not expecting you to raise your football players. I am expecting you to have an environment or a culture of at least caring. And so you see the train starting to derail.
Yeah.
You have the opportunity, because I know you're in the SEC, every game's tough, but there were some lesser opponents like, hey, why don't you go get some treatment? Or right after the season's over, right after you almost win a national title.
What jersey were the people buying, though?
Yeah, he was gone after the season was over. He wasn't going to class.
I'm just saying.
What jersey would they have out there that they were selling?
Yeah.
That, like, you can even do it discreetly. You don't need to advertise it. But if you care about this young man, I'm not saying you have to be his dad while he's at college. He's 18 or 19.
Yeah.
He can take care of
Ain't gonna
himself.
happen.
Like, look, I am with you.
I am too.
And I totally agree with what you're saying.
I'm with you, but it ain't gonna happen.
But here's the deal. I saw almost the exact same situation play out at KU, and I am not going to mention the player's name.
I will.
But he was the same position.
Yeah.
Played very much the same way as Manziel.
Yes.
Wasn't as good.
Yeah.
But I saw the same thing play out in a lesser situation without all the hype.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they did nothing.
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 You
And so if they did nothing,
yeah.
then how can I hold the A&M coaches like when they're in the middle of
this is a culture
what is unrivaled
of NCAA
hype.
sports.
Like,
this
listen,
is the culture of the NCAA sports.
I am with you, but asking if they're not doing it in regular old college situations, asking this
like
is
dormant.
the hype of this
Dormant.
of Johnny football was beyond I think what any of us can comprehend.
Absolutely.
I will quote my friend.
That's the point that I'm making.
The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Oh boy. He's
The
got a bow tie on.
time to do what is right, or it's always right to do, or Now you threw me off with the bow tie.
He's all flustered.
Fool me once, shame up. Just don't fool me again. You understand?
The time is always right to do what is right. That's the quote. But like, if especially, I was so miffed at the athletic director who, he's the scum of the earth. I will say.
So you can't say a diagnosis, but you can say that. Huh?
Oh yeah, scum of the earth. Hey, I was already furious as soon as they brought up, well, we left the Big 12.
Hey,
I'm like,
I wish I could have watched this with Cody. I messed up. I should have came over and watched this with you.
Oh, he texted me. He was big mad. He was big mad that all these coaches failed him. Like, look, listen. This could have been a lot worse. Yeah. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Johnny's alive.
Yeah, somehow.
Hundreds of millions of dollars were made, a new stadium.
And it's America. That's all that matters, Cody. What is wrong? What is wrong? Why do you care about people? This is not about this is about winning. If we went by what you just said, you know how many people would not be in the NFL right now?
Okay. Serious thing
for real.
Serious thing to move us into the next question, because this is a great time to do it. Doesn't this sort of prove the NCAA's point about is it good for college athletes to be making tons of money? Doesn't this kind of back up their claim?
No.
Okay. Listen, I'm not saying that's what I believe. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I love it. That's a good question.
Does this put some credence on why the NCAA was holding back the money going to college athletes?
Yes. In Cody's world, like what Cody is saying, he's right, and they shouldn't be. They should just get a scholarship. But that's not where we're at. That's not what this has become.
Okay,
is not where we're at.
You say in Cody's world. Now, aren't there mental health people involved in these?
Oh, yes.
Sports teams?
I get to go. Because of the crisis, they let a dude from Chanute go to Iowa State and speak to the locker room, you know? Because of that, John MacArthur got to speak to the Nebraska football team. Because of this, it actually allows the church to have a say.
Because of Johnny Manziel?
Yeah, because of the culture of the NCAA and the spiritual needs, the metaphysical needs.
Because they're getting paid now.
Well, not just because they're going to be the pressure, the culture, the atmosphere. I mean, the college football, if you played at Ohio State and then signed the Carolina Panthers, you're playing in front of more people in college than you ever will, more than likely. And if you played at Michigan, Ohio State, Notre Dame, UCLA, some of these places hold 110, 120,000 people.
Tennessee.
More
Tuscaloosa.
Tennessee, yeah. So college football, the pressure, I can't imagine playing for LSU. I can't imagine playing in front of 120,000 people and then getting it done and then being humble. Are you kidding me? So
I got no response to that.
Yeah.
That feeds into like thoughts of grandiose, which then is a symptom.
But tell the truth. If you could throw sidearm on the run and hit a dude on the run like Patrick Mahomes, what kind of sense would you have?
Oh, my goodness.
I look at Patrick Mahomes and go, how does he have any? I'm amazed that he has any sense with the things that he can do.
Let's balance this with, we've all watched the quarterback documentary that featured Patrick Mahomes, that featured Kirk Cousins. Now, Patrick Mahomes is more of a Johnny Manziel level type athlete. But like, in this documentary, you've got Johnny Manziel saying, I watched no tape. I did nothing on my own to put any effort towards being better at football. In the quarterback documentary, you've got Patrick Mahomes watching hours of game tape. You've got Kirk Cousins strapping technology to his head to watch videos to help him to focus.
But if you went to a party, you would think Patrick Mahomes and Johnny Manziel were the same person. That's the point that I'm trying to make to my brother over here. Like, there's a lot of guys who think and act the same way Johnny does, but Johnny just don't put in the work.
Patrick Mahomes is amazingly balanced.
Could you imagine, though, throwing the ball like that and coming in with the success that first season he started and having that magical run, the first Super Bowl or that first time they lost the conference championship? You couldn't tell me nothing. What would you be able to tell me?
That's why I have a St. Patrick Mahomes candle.
St. Patrick. I love it. So that's why Johnny Manziel is who we thought he was, and that's what the documentary told us. And the only thing that shocked me was the lie that they made up to let people think that his family was rich.
So the thing that bothered me, besides like the brutal honesty of Cliff Kingsbury, which I appreciated.
Okay, yeah. Give him his props.
Yeah, he was honest.
Did he get paid for the documentary?
I don't know. Maybe
that might affect my.
Is he coaching still? Is he with the Arizona Cardinals?
So he got let go this past offseason.
Okay,
and
he's somewhere though.
He was last seen on the beach in Hawaii.
There you go. Stop. He wasn't in Maui, though.
Yeah, not in Maui.
Is he the one who started the fire?
But like the thing that bothered me is like, okay, so we highlight that Johnny Manziel is this phenomenal athlete.
Yeah.
Give him his props. But like, there's people around him. There's teammates. And also, like, you skip a huge chapter of like, so they focus on the first 2 years in the NFL where he gets canned. But like, he goes to the CFL. There's a Canadian Football League Johnny Manziel that we did not even discuss.
Yeah. So another thing
I was robbed.
How he was able to pass the test. He was drinking all that water. Just that whole game of showing up the way he did to the draft, and then like. We didn't even talk about how he threw passes to his wide receivers. Got so drunk they couldn't show up to the workout, so he's throwing passes to his agents and the lawyers. I mean, you can't make this up. This is like how he got drafted, and you knew. You want me to tell you how I knew when the whole thing was not going to work out is when the Cowboys passed him.
Yep.
Yeah.
If Jerry passes on a big Texas guy.
Yeah, if Jerry passes on you, that should have told every NFL team. And so Johnny paycheck, Johnny football. I thought he was he was who I thought he was.
Incidentally, Cliff Kingsbury is now an assistant coach at USC.
Okay, so that makes sense. So he's with the OU coach, huh? Is that OU's Lincoln Riley?
Lincoln Riley.
And I'm just the disappointment that you guys will have is that NCAA, the grandiose thoughts that we have about amateur sports, the fans play a role. So it's no different than we talked about any other documentary here. And not only do the coaches let them down, we fans.
Yeah.
We fans. So remember we talk about these documentaries and we talk about like, have you seen that documentary of the cats? Where they,
oh, yeah.
Okay, and in the documentary, the
Don't
people
F with cats.
Yeah, the people that made the documentary said, "Are we culpable?" Yeah. And they started feeling some type of. And the meat. Remember we were watching the documentary with the guy, and there's a couple. I feel like
the Barney documentary was the same way. Like all these people that were trying to get Barney canceled were like, "Oh, did we mess up a whole generation of kids?"
Yeah. So I feel like the way that we talk about sports and the grand scale that we talk about it, we are also culpable. When Dan Marino never won a ring, but he was the man. And I think when you start making it just about some guys, if it was so easy to just go out and win, everybody would do it. But it's not. So I feel like we need to, as fans and even people that do shows like this, be more creative with how we talk about sports.
Yes.
That's just me.
Now there's even an extra added weight that it's all about gambling now.
Yeah.
ESPN is starting their own network that's literally channel that's all about betting.
All about betting.
Gambling.
Guys, I do a football Bible study on Thursdays, and I'm not going to lie to you. When we watch Thursday Night Football and we have a Bible study, those kids they're all in high school. And they all have their phones out, and they all have prop bets. I won't say all, because I don't know what parents are listening, and I'm not a snitch. Actually, I'm not a reporter. It would be me reporting. Snitching is when you're doing it with them, and then you're acting like you didn't do it, and you tell on them. That's what real snitching is. I'm actually just reporting. But there are a lot of kids in that room who are betting prop bets on the game that we're watching.
It's wild.
Ain't that wild?
That's wild.
I don't even have that kind of
world.
I don't have that kind of courage.
College,
and you just saw the scandal at Iowa State. Yeah. Iowa State just had a huge scandal. That
Iowa State.
That kicker missed 3 field goals at KU, and he's got arrested. And he missed 3 field goals at that KU football game.
Dude bet the under. In a game he was in.
But I thought, because I was sitting with the Iowa State fans when he missed all 3 kicks. I was like, oh my gosh.
Like that guy wasn't going to be able to show his face again.
Yes, I was thinking he was going to be, have to have somebody on the bus with him on the way to the plane. But yeah, so you're right. Whole new ball game.
Let's switch it up. Let's move to our last thing here because I like to get to the deep theme last.
All right.
There's a quote by Johnny.
Uh-oh.
And this plays more to our role as pastors, where he says, and this is like, listen, some form of this has been uttered by the likes of Tom Brady, been uttered by the likes of Jerry Rice, and pretty much anybody who's reached the pinnacle of their sport, where Johnny says, I had everything I ever wanted, and I never felt more empty.
You posted that.
When are we going to start
listening
listening to them when they say it out loud?
Even Solomon said this.
Yes.
Like, they keep going to the top going, there's nothing up here. And we don't believe him.
Michael Jordan.
We don't believe him.
Like, the dude's like, well, I'm the GOAT, but like, I need something else in my life.
We don't believe him. For some reason, we don't believe him. I don't know why.
When are we going to listen?
I don't know. We just, the writer in Psalm said, not to us, but to your name be the glory. And we're just not made for fame. The only one that can handle fame is God. And I'm not to be over Christianese, but at the end of the day, that's it. And this machine, man, it breaks my heart. Like every single one of these documentaries and all the untold stories, this is what they're doing this season. Okay, you got Jake Paul, which I watched that one already.
I haven't
and
yet.
all of his brokenness.
Next
week, Barry Bonds right now just released today. I watched it this afternoon during lunch because I didn't know if you're going to bring that up. Talk about Barry Bonds and the Conte guy and Balco. Mm-hmm. It's again chasing fame. And we got the Swamp Kings coming up, which is going to be
Swamp Kings is going to be
interesting.
Crazy.
And I just don't think, and I know Dave knows because of your campus experience at KU. There's nothing I can equate it with. Like, what did Lester Earl really do?
Oh, he did nothing.
But his fame on that campus, he could literally ask for anything he wanted and get it. I mean, it became a what was like free Leicester. What was a free world? They people were going to games with
Free
signs like,
Leicester.
free Leicester.
Yeah.
It was just this thing that built. And I remember being at Midnight Madness. I'm sitting behind the bench at Midnight Madness watching Paul Pierce post up Leicester Earl, and the building's just they're playing like a little scrimmage, and it's just this build up like, oh my gosh, the possibilities of what it's gonna be. He hadn't done anything at this point. He averaged about 20 points a game. At LSU, had a decent freshman year, but as far as accomplishments, to your point, like what fans think of accomplishment, and it was Dave remembers it was a huge buzz, and nothing came.
So interesting story. I actually played in a pickup game with Lester Earl before he hurt his knee, and he blocked one of my shots. And it looked like I was looking up at the soles of his feet.
Yeah, buddy.
He could leap out of the building, and that was lost after he hurt his knee.
He can jump out the gym.
Here's where I will get back into to end the show here. I'm going to go back to holding ourselves culpable. Humanity was made to hold something in awe. We were made to recognize awe, and right now, and lift up our arms to it. And right now, what we lift up our arms to are athletes.
Yeah.
And Taylor Swift,
our
favorite musicians. Our arms go straight up in the air when we get excited like that.
Yeah.
And that is how we're culpable of putting people like Johnny Manziel in a position. What's a 19-year-old kid going to do to 100,000 plus, all lifting their arms in celebration?
Can I
add
one more thing? How about we talk about team sports like it is team?
Yeah.
Yes.
And I just feel like lifting LeBron up and lifting up whoever you think is great, and not talking about the team. I think fans are culpable. I think we are asking for one thing and not realizing what it produces.
And that's the issue when you lift something up to like idol-like status. That you made something that's not inherently good or inherently bad. It just is. And now you have put the wrong emphasis on it. And the natural cause and effect is chaos and turmoil.
So maybe when Johnny Manziel says, I got everything I ever wanted and I never felt more empty, maybe our natural response, our response should be, what have we done?
The coaches, the
fans, everyone.
Yeah, what are we doing? What are we doing? What's our goal with this?
I love sports.
Yeah, what's our goal with this?
But I've also lost the kind of fanaticism I used to have for sports.
And you also understand when I conversate with you, we love to talk about teams. And that is getting more and more of a kids today, I'm not bashing on kids, but there's this now culture now that's so individualistic. And NFL used to never be like this, but it's become this now because you wear masks, you wear football helmets, you can't really see an individual. But now it's becoming, and this may be the gambling thing, the fantasy league / gambling thing, the emphasis now is individuals, whereas that 49ers team was a good team. Now it's Tom Brady. Bro, they were legitimately good teams.
Tom Brady had like 16 top 5 defenses in his career. Like,
do you understand what I'm saying? Like, we've got the 49ers were a phenomenal team. Like Roger Craig, Tom Rathman. We knew all those guys. Ronnie Lott. Like, we knew Jerry Rice. Like, we knew even John Taylor was a phenomenal tight end.
The 85 Bears, you list off every defensive team member, including William the Refrigerator Perry.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So I just kind of feel like what fans need to bring back, and I think the NBA actually hit it this year with Denver and the Miami Heat. Those are two really good teams.
Yes.
And we saw them average almost 9 passes a possession every time. So there's an opportunity to get back to that.
Yeah.
And I think if women's sports focuses more on teamwork, they have a good chance in women's basketball. But right now,
we got to want it, though.
It's the girl from Iowa that everybody's elevating.
Well, the fans got to want it, that.
Yeah.
They got to support it.
Yeah, that's true.
Because women's basketball has been a truer version of the game for a long time.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
But we got to support it.
Absolutely. You're right. That's good stuff. I just, bless his heart. When I watched the documentary, I laughed the whole time. Like, this is exactly, I always thought he had, I don't know how much run-ins you have with frat guys. but this is a frat guy who's really good at football. All of my friends who are in frat, if they were really good at football, we're in trouble. Them being good at cornhole is dangerous. Let alone
succeeding in the SEC as the best quarterback in the nation.
Yeah, and people wanted him to be the best quarterback. They wanted him to be. He captured their imaginations.
Yeah.
It's wild. Any final thoughts?
So the person that I related to in this was the sister. The one I connected with was the sister.
I
I'm
almost
like,
forgot her. Yeah.
oh,
She's the only one who talks about him like he's a real person.
yep. And she's very level-headed about it. Like, and she's
his ride or die.
She says that.
Yep.
And I see this coming, and I'm like, Johnny, you gotta quit going out partying.
Yeah.
Mom and Dad's like, whatever.
And when did she say it went off the rails? She said he became a different person after the Bama game because he couldn't be stopped from getting whatever he wanted. At that point, he could get whatever he could do whatever he wanted, and she knew that was bad for him.
Let's end with this. Let's just pray that whatever that spirit is never lands itself on Patrick Mahomes. Whatever that demonic, let's just pray that somehow, and I'm not going to lie, I'll whisper this, but I was having a hard time with the wife on that documentary.
Oh.
I'm whispering because I don't want anybody to hear me, but
Hey,
that was tough.
If I'm complimenting Brittany Mahomes, though, I'm saying, hey, man, there's no one as a bigger cheerleader than her.
I'm just going to refer to her as the wife. And I was struggling. I was trying to go, KD, stop being judgmental. Now you got, what's his name? Cousin's wife is cutting out Cole's cash over here. She's clipping Cole's cash.
The cousins almost seem like the Tuohys.
Yeah,
I'm like, they're impossibly decent.
They are way too clean. Didn't it feel that way?
Yes.
It was like, wow. Here they're driving a conversion van. You're just like, okay.
He's reading his kids' bedtime stories.
You're going to have to edit this thing so people don't get lost in the weeds with us.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
I don't got that kind of time.
I have one compliment for you guys. I love, though, how the different ways you break up the podcasts.
Okay.
And how you drop segments every once in a while of just former podcasts. I actually really enjoy that. I think that's genius.
Oh, thank you.
Just so you know, I enjoy that. How you guys don't always play the whole podcast, just like drop a whole pod. How you just drop different parts of it, I think is genius, and kudos to y'all. Good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good stuff.
I appreciate it.
It's a good podcast.
If you'd like to tell us how brilliant we are, you can follow us on Facebook.
Hey, let's pray that you guys don't get that spirit. I mean, all it takes, for real, Andy Reid one day said where he eats pizza at every Thursday or whatever. Now everybody. So could you imagine? All it takes is one to go, oh my gosh, I listen to these two guys on Pop Culture Pastor, and then it's over. And then you guys are walking around in bow ties and sweats.
I would love to prove my humbleness if this show blew up.
If
and
it
we were
blows
able
up,
to,
I'm praying for you guys. Because, I'm praying. You know what you get from it? And every young athlete needs to hear it, be careful what you ask for.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. That's a good way to end it.
I hope I never become a famous. I never want anybody. I want to live in Chanute. I do not want to be known.
It's the land that
Lord help us.
It's the land that time forgot.
Lord help. If you guys become famous, take all of my stuff off your podcast. I'm going to put that in the conservatorship. What is it called? What'd you call it? The
Conservatorship.
Put that in the conservative stuff.
All right. Tell us what you thought if you watched the documentary. Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy the sports talk for this episode? We had a sports theme this episode. That's part of pop culture.
Do you ever talk about sports and pop culture?
Not much.
I was going to say I haven't heard of it.
We talked about wrestling once.
The last conversation y'all had about Marvel just cracked me up, but I'll talk about that.
Make sure and subscribe to the pod if you haven't already. Download them, take them with you on road trips. That's all good. And make sure and give us a review. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time.
Pop Culture Pastor.